Carol, hey Castle, hey Kale. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever it is you're watching me today, I say good day to you. So I saw the movie Lisabi, part 2 to be precise. I saw it last week. I saw the part 1 last year, towards the end of last year, because of my location. So I had to download a paid VPN to be able to watch it. So I saw the part 2 last week, and I can't help but ask the question why. Why is a question that came to my mind throughout the movie and even after. Now, I'm going to say something. When we watch any foreign movie that is supposed to be a biopic, but some things were changed or added for entertainment purpose, there's always a warning, right? There's always a caveat at the beginning or the end of the movie, or even in the title of the movie. You obviously know, oh, some things have been changed in this movie for entertainment purpose. Example is Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. If we've all seen that movie, we know Abraham Lincoln in his life was definitely not a vampire hunter. Although most of the stories were true in that movie, except for the part of the vampires and him being a vampire hunter. That is obvious. It's even obvious in the title that, oh, this is a biopic, but in a different way, right? Now, I believe this is what Lisabi is supposed to be because it is a biopic, right? But there are so many things that were not historically accurate, or should I say are not historically accurate. Let me say it like that. Because watching the movie, I saw a lot of things that wouldn't have happened in that time period. This happened not so long ago. Let's not forget that this Lisabi revolt happened right after the death of Bashorunga. Bashorunga died in sometime around 1774, right? And this Lisabi's revolt happened between 1775 and 1780. It happened within a period of 5 years. That was when the revolt happened, right? So this happened not so long ago. There should be little things that can be added because this happened not so long ago. It's not something that happened like over 500 years ago. This happened 300 and something years ago, if my math is correct. Pardon me if my math is not correct. Anyways, there are 4 problems I have with the movie, especially the part 2. Some of those problems were in part 1 too. The first problem I have is the prop. The prop being the knife, the sword, the axes they used on the battlefield. Those things, I have problem with them. I'll talk to them later on in the video. The second issue I have with the movie is the story. What was the story in the beginning of part 1? That's supposed to be historical. That's supposed to be something that gets people emotional about the movie, right? What was that story? You remember the story when Adebayo Salami Ogabelo was telling a story to the character Lisabi in that movie. I'm going to get to that later too. The third problem I have is why were there dead bodies in the palace? I mean, the Alaafin of Oyo's palace, in the palace, and the Alaafin went out to look at the bodies. Really? It's not like you led the war or anything, even though you couldn't have led any war. Alaafin remained in the palace. That was why the title Alaafin was Alaafin. And the fourth problem I had with the movie is Olumide Woro. What was that? So let's begin with the first problem I have. Now, the props. I understand that they cannot use real sword, obviously. When I saw the making of the movie, I saw a little bit of some makings clip online when part 1 was about to be released last year. When I saw it and I saw the swords Ibrahim Chatta, Lateef Adedimeji were holding, I was like, maybe they are going to use CGI to change how the swords look like, only to see the movie and see that no effort was made to make the sword look real enough to be able to slit someone's throat. I mean, the effects were okay, the blood spillage, the blood splatter and everything, those effects were okay. But then they had the mind to zoom in. They could have zoomed out, they could have viewed the war in a way that it will be wide view and won't really see the obvious, right? They zoomed in into those knives, into those swords. We saw how blunt the edges were. They were like the edges of this remote control. They were this blunt, even more blunt than this. This remote is kind of sharper than the way the sword looked like in the movie. What was that? And there was a part in the part two when they were fighting the war, and Ibrahim Yekini Itele was holding two axes in his hands. If somebody was holding two axes in their hand, axes, he was shaking the axes like he was holding some toy. He was shaking it. It was too obvious that he was holding pieces of wood. You should have put attitudes can be added to this thing to make it more real. That's my problem with the props. It was too obvious. Talking about it is even getting me really angry. Now, let's talk about the story in the beginning of part two. I apologize for this long video, please, but I just have to rant. Now, what does that story have to do with anything? It has, first thing, the story had nothing to do with why Lisabi revolted. We all know why Lisabi revolted to Oyo, according to the movie. The death of his friend Oshokeno, which is not also historically correct, but then it's allowed. It's a movie. They can add some things, right? The constant rape of girls in the village, the oppression. That was why Lisabi revolted. That story was not needed. If I thought that story only proved Oyo people right that they were in the right to collect taxes and stops from other people. And know that Oyo did not only tax other Yoruba countries or other Yoruba cities. They went as far to Dahomey, which is not even Yoruba place. Those people were paying the largest amount of tax to Oyo, over $1.3 million in today's money per year. That was what was going from Dahomey to Oyo's pocket, right? Those people were not even Yorubas. So they can't try to base the war because someone was angry because somebody is taxing someone. Because if at all, that story only proved Oyo people right. Now, what was the story? Now, Oga Bello was like, oh, eons ago or years ago, when Udua gave birth to Okambi, I believe all Yoruba should know that story. I mean, those story in that movie is not right, but then let's go with it. When Oduduwa gave birth to Okambi gave birth to 7 children, right? We know those 7 children were the one that established the 7 major cities in the Yoruba land, which is like Oyo, Ile-Ife, and Co, right? So those 7 children went their separate ways because Okambi died very early, according to this movie now. Okambi died very early when his children were still very young, right? So they knew Oduduwa as their father. And Oromiyan being the last child, right? So we all know that Oromiyan is the father of Oyo. Oromiyan founded Oyo. He was the first Alafin of Oyo. That is the historical Oyo. I guess that was what they were trying to say in the movie too, that Oromiyan was the first Alafin of Oyo, right? So when Oduduwa, whom they know as their father, when he died, they decided to take all the properties to themselves, like the 6 older siblings of Oromiyan. Because Oromiyan is a wanderer, is a warrior. He wanders a lot, and that is even how he found Oyo, because he was wandering and he saw a sign, I think a snake or something. I forgot the story now. He saw a sign, and that was how he found Oyo, right? So Oromiyan is a wanderer. So being the wanderer he is, and he was younger than the other siblings, right? He wasn't around when Oduduwa died. Before he came back, they already shared all the properties into 6 equal parts amongst themselves. Ask me that. That is cheating. They cheated him because of his age. That was what that story is saying. They cheated him, but the lady among them, being Abiyamo, right? He decided that, oh, let us give Oromiyan some parts of these things, maybe every year or quarterly or however they said they were going to do it, but they were giving him proceeds, right? They were giving him things that were due to him. And Oromiyan, no problem with it. He accepted wholeheartedly, he even rejoiced with them as seen in the movie, right? So, and time passed, Oromiyan died, other Alaafin came on. And one thing I know, change is constant. Every time a king comes, it changes something. So maybe they added to the things they were getting from the other Yoruba states, and it became more. And that is how the taxes became constant to Oyo, according to the movie. Now, ask me, if at all anything, that story only proved Oyo right, exonerated Oyo people, because they cheated him and decided to be giving him something, and that thing became constant. It became consistently consistent. And that brought about the tax, even though that is nowhere true. But then, for the movie, that is what the movie is saying. So tell me what's angered Lisabi in that story. I don't understand. Why should he get angry about that story? I don't get it. Why? Now, the third problem I said I have with the movie is Alaafin seeing dead body. Yeah, we know the Alaafin that was present during the time of the Lisabi's revolt was the same one that killed Bashorunga, which is Alaafin Abiodun, the one that Bashorunga killed his child Agboyin. It's the same Alaafin that was present during Lisabi's revolt. Alaafin Abiodun, he was the one. He literally bathed in blood. He literally bathed in his enemy's blood, which is like Bashorunga's family and every other people that were supporting Bashorunga. History said that Alaafin and Abiodun bathed in their blood. I mean, it might not be literally, it could be like some proverb or something. I mean, history said that, right? But there's no history that says Alaafin can see dead body. Yeah, we know Alaafin is strong, is an emperor and all that. We all know the Yoruba thing, like kings are not allowed to see a dead body. It is a taboo, a warning. Now, tell me why that movie. First, in part one, Alaafin, although they try not to mention his name throughout the movie, but it is Alaafin Abiodun. Alaafin shot people with gun right in the palace, like shooting them dead right in the palace. Now, in part two, it literally saw dismembered body. Like, this is not Spartacus. This is not a Greek mythology. It is not a Greek movie. This is a Yoruba historic movie. It's supposed to portray the historic moments in Yoruba land, right? Now he's seeing somebody's head on a spike. Somebody's head on a spike, seeing dismembered bodies on the ground, are laughing, right? I don't believe that is historically correct. I don't believe it at all, at all. Now the fourth one, Olumide Owuru. What was that? And those his lines are not even so much. The director could have said cut again, cut, say it again until he says those things right. Those lines were not too much for you to speak proper Yoruba, even if you cannot speak Egba. I mean, we understand that you might not be able to speak Egba, but what was that? It's like watching Game of Thrones, for example, and you just see a black American guy saying, "Yo, what's up?" in a movie that is supposed to be years ago, right? That is exactly what happened with Olumide Owuru's line. What was that? Ojushaju knew because anybody could have acted that role. Anybody could have acted a young boy that disrespected Lisabi. Anybody could have acted it. I mean, could not get the line. Just find somebody else. If he sponsored the movie, and so what? People sponsor the movie and sit back, which I'm not saying is true. I'm just saying if that is the reason why he was casted for that role, because that is nonsense. It's pure nonsense. And there are some other problems that I have that are like here and there. So many issues about the movie. So many issues. But in all, it was a good watch. I'm nice to see that Nollywood is going somewhere. But then that wasn't it. And don't let me started about the Lycans, the werewolf. And that come from. How? This happened not so long ago. Like, I keep saying this happened not so long ago. I'm 75, 76, 77, down to 80 is not a very long time ago. It wasn't like thousands of years ago or something. This is something that can literally be traced back properly. The whites were already present in the Western region then. They were already doing their things, coming to pick up slaves, small, that time. So it wasn't a very long time ago, right? So why were they involved? Now, let us even talk about the story that evolved around Lisabi's birth. Now, this video is very long. Sorry. What was that? Were they trying to say only one in Lisabi wasn't truly Egba? Is that what they are saying? Were they trying to say he was raised by residents in the forest and wasn't truly an Egba child? Was raised by Akilakpa, what was the name of that one that turns into werewolf and Yagbonko? Those were the four people that raised him, according to the story of the movie. What was that? We all know that is not historically right? I mean, you can come for me as much as you want, but those Akilakpa, those werewolf, I mean, it's allowed. You can add it, but at least warn us. Tell us somewhere in the movie that things have been added to change the story or make the story more interesting. I don't know what to say again. You know,